thank you very much. I must say thank you twice, because I know that at the same time there is another seminar, so I really must thank you for attending this one. I try not to bother you, so with the methodologies, but mainly with the results, with the facts, and how, I've been working on this topic in the last 10 years, and I will let you know the story of what has happened in my life in the recent years. So I would like to start with the premise, and the premise is very interesting for the Spanish, because I attended a conference at the very beginning of October of last year. At the very beginning of October, there was a conference on high-speed rail, an international conference on high-speed rail in Ciudad Real, organized by the University of Toledo. Jose Maria Ureña, I don't know whether you know him, and many people came from different parts of the world attending this conference. And this was the occasion of this conference was the 25th anniversary of the high-speed rail link in Spain, the Madrid-Seville section link, and we were there. We took the first train in Madrid and we went to Seville. I was on that train, and la Tribuna de Ciudad Real presented, there was an article, look at me, I am there, on the Spanish newspaper, but the television was there. And I wanted to start this seminar with this video. I hope it works. It should work.
Durante 3 días, Ciudad Real acoge el Congreso Internacional de la Alta Velocidad. Esta mañana los participantes han hecho un receso para dejar a sus mascarillas y seguir...
You understand Spanish quite well.
El Guedes de Banque regresaba a La Mancha 25 años después, a bordo, como dice ya inaugurar, expertos, aunque esta vez llegados de medio mundo, querían descubrir el éxito de un tren que cambió Ciudad Real. Hechos se conformaron hasta luego para el que se hicieron alrededor de la estación de la y también la universidad.
José María Ureña.
A ser una ciudad en la que la gente está acostumbrada a viajar, y eso siempre es una manera de modernizarse y desarrollar.
Tecnología española que ha servido también para cambiar la cara del país.
Lo primero que salía un americano cuando va a España no le iba a Madrid, porque era país de los que conocen.
Renfe.
Explica bastante bien, digamos, como una reflexión para servir para asustar.
Entonces se estrenaron 471 kilómetros de línea de alta velocidad, dejando atrás el ancho de día español. Hoy hay registrados más de 3.200 operativos. Comunidad, también, igualdad, forman parte de su DNI, algo que muchos quieren exportar.
Esto es real, la pregunta es...
Roger Bickerman. Francesca Pagliara.
Roma nos ha cambiado la vida. Tardamos 1 hora menos en hacer este trayecto.
350 millones de viajeros han hecho en algunos momentos el trayecto alta velocidad española, que está más vigente que nunca.
Perfecto. So, after this, let's go down to the nitty-gritty of my presentation. Why many countries are investing in high-speed rail systems? Because, these systems increase the transport infrastructure capacity, because they are a green transport alternative mode. But mainly, and this is the topic of my presentation today, because, they promote, because mainly for the wider social and economic effects they produce. And if I had to find a slogan of my presentation today, I would rather say high-speed rail systems, shrinking space, shaping places. If you have in mind this slogan, all the presentation will be easy, to follow. So let's get down to the topics that I will treat in my presentation. Don't worry, I will not be so long, but I will talk about high-speed rail systems and their power of changing modal shift, then high-speed rail system and the power of developing megalopolis, high-speed rail system tourism, high-speed rail system and temporary offices, high-speed rail system and house prices, high-speed rail system and social exclusion. You see the flags because of different countries, Italy, France, Spain, UK, because I've been working on this topic with many colleagues with different countries, and I will try to show you the main results of this research. I promise not to bother you to the methodologies, but just to go very quick on them and to show you the results. So what I do like most of being, I can say being within academia, but also being a transport researcher, because I am a transportation engineer, is that I've been working with many, many people, researchers and academics from different disciplines. And I do love the idea of the interdisciplinary approach. High-speed rail system give me the possibility of working with, not only with transportation engineers, as I am, but people involved, in economy, so transport economists, transport geographers, so people involved in political economy, sociologists, psychologists, people that are interested in analyzing the user behavior. So let's get down to the first work. I will try to be short, but everything starting from there. You know that Naples, in Italy, this is the high-speed rail link, let's say high-speed rail network in Italy, which connects and serves just big cities, Napoli, Roma, Firenze, Bologna, Milano, Torino. Probably you have been in these cities. And the high-speed rail network connects only the big metropolitan cities in Italy. So I myself was involved in a project working for Trenitalia, which funded this project because the high-speed rail link between Napoli and Roma was inaugurated at the very end of 2005. And it was amazing because between Napoli and Roma, with the high-speed rail link, now you can reach Roma in 1 hour. Sometimes when there is congestion in Napoli, you can go reach the other borough of the city because it's so congested that even in an hour you don't reach the other part of the city, but now you can go to Roma in 1 hour. It's amazing. So life has changed between these two cities. So I myself was involved in this project. The travel time before the high-speed rail link was 2 hours. Now it's less than 1 hour, more or less 1 hour. And then what happened is that the link was inaugurated in 2005. So after the inauguration, the shift was in favor of train because the competition between Napoli and Roma on a short link is less than 200 kilometers is of course car. It cannot be plane. People go to Roma by plane because they go to Hong Kong, because they go to America. Of course they don't go to Rome by plane. So what we did was, of course, we employ a survey. We interview people on board on high-speed trains, intercity trains, and of course a car, because we stop cars at the motor stations, at the service stations, and we interview people during the weekdays and the weekends because the behavior is different. And what we did, we realized that there was a demand on high-speed trains. We noticed that there was a shift from intercity and Eurostar trains to high-speed trains, 69% of people, from car not so much. And then we noticed that there was a generated demand, so people that didn't use train but decided to choose train because of the high-speed train. So as you know, the normal way that we have to model the behavior of user is mode choice modeling based on random utility theory, discrete choice analysis. I don't want to go deep into this analysis because probably you know that. Of course, the alternatives using a simple multinomial logic model are these ones. Car, intercity, Eurostar, and high-speed train. These are the simple multinomial logic. But it is interesting that we specify a diachronic model, a diachronic graph. The diachronic graph is used for scheduled services, which is the opposite of static graphs. The static graph used for road networks. So the diachronic graph takes into account that each run of the transit line takes into account the corresponding arrival times at stops, and then we took into account early and late penalties that were introduced in the utility functions They take into account the difference between the user desired departure arrival time and the departure arrival time of the corresponding train service. The late penalties is exactly the opposite. The choice set was made up of 13 different alternatives obtained by combining, the different alternatives available, car, 12 train alternatives obtained by combining, type of service, combining the different class, first or second class, and the late and early penalties. So just to show you the results, I wanted to show you these results taking into account the different attributes, travel time, access time, travel time on train, early late penalties if the user is age less than 30, if the user belongs to a high professional condition, if the ticket is reimbursed, traveling more than 2 people, if the travel is once a week. I don't want to go deep into the analysis of the results, but just to show you the row square, look at this. It's quite high. It's a quite good way of reproducing available data. And I wanted to show you that this is a multinomial logic model. Sometimes we rake our brains over trying to specify very sophisticated models. And sometimes the multinomial logic model produces the same results of a more sophisticated model like nested logic, or cross-nested, the more sophisticated ones. And the result was here because Trenitalia, of course, was not interested in the most sophisticated specification. This work was for Trenitalia. Trenitalia wanted to know the results, of course, the shift between Napoli and Roma. And I'm saying this because we specify a nested logic model, and the nested logic model provided in terms of row square more or less the same results even in the attributes. So sometimes we rake our brains over trying to specify the most sophisticated model, but finally the nested logic model produced the same result of very simple multinomial logic model. But the work between Napoli and Roma, actually, these are the flows between Napoli and Roma. Okay, the OD matrices on car, intercity trains, high-speed trains, the commuting flows, the origin, the OD matrices between Napoli and Roma on the different transport modes. And what came to my mind was that between Napoli and Roma, actually there is a commuting city. Every day people travel, from Rome, depart from Napoli, go to Rome, work in Rome, and then they come back to Napoli. Every day. I have many colleagues that have their families in Napoli and work to Rome and vice versa. So this came to my mind, the idea that probably between Napoli and Roma, a megalopolis exists, a mega city that I call Rona. But look at what I'm saying. I wanted to say whether, my second step was to analyze whether between Napoli and Roma, a megalopolis, a mega city, or a mega region, Campania, Lazio, exists. So in the literature, I started analyzing the literature on this topic. Well, there are many things on what a megalopolis exists. They call it megalopolis, mega region, mega cities, megaplexes, many definitions. I do like the one of Joseph Sussman. Joseph Sussman is a professor from MIT, and he called a megalopolis an integrated economic urban complex, which is created by the fusion of multiple cities served by high-speed transportation of 200, 300 kilometers per hour. I do like the idea of Bloom and his colleagues that they say that it is a geographical area that shares a common labor market and a common market for households and business services. Okay, so what are the positive impacts of two cities working together than two cities working separately? Well, there is a big increase in productivity. They are better, more efficient cities, in meeting economic and social challenges. You should know that there is nothing in the literature that try to quantify this phenomenon. Okay, so I started thinking about whether the high-speed rail in shrinking space, shaping places, could actually develop this mega city. Okay, so I'm just analyzing analyzing the phenomenon, I'm still in the qualitative stage of the phenomenon. That is no precise parameters, but what we know is that we have a significant increase in one-day round trips between a pair or group of cities, Napoli and Roma, and a significant increase in one-day trip. People go to Roma in the morning and come back to Napoli in the evening, they go back to their families. Then we have an increase in generating induced demand. High-speed rail can do that. We have an induced demand for business trips, definitely. We have an increase in the number of daily commuters. This is what I was saying. Decrease in overnight hotel stays. I don't sleep in Roma. At least, even if I have a conference in Roma, I go back to Napoli in the evening. I mean, it's less expensive, and especially if I have, problems with my family, I go back. So, because this is possible with high-speed rail, especially if you buy the tickets earlier. So, I started investigating 2 corridors. Again, I decided to analyze the phenomenon from a quantitative point of view, even if this has not been published yet. I wanted to analyze the phenomenon from a quantitative point of view. So I started analyzing the 2 corridors, Roma-Napoli, Milano-Torino. Milano-Torino is less than 1 hour. It's 1 hour by train, high-speed train, of course. So I wanted to analyze whether the 2 megacities, Rona and Mito, I developed this acronym, exist, thanks to high-speed rail, okay? This is, I'm going to show you the preliminary results of this research. I know that there is a lot to do, and the results I'm going to show you are not the final ones, okay? So what I did was to analyze these 2 corridors served by high-speed rail, of course. So what I did was to analyze the changes in population, you see, and the changes in house prices between the 2 corridors in, the high-speed rail link between Napoli and Roma was inaugurated in 2005. So in 2005, you see the changes in population between the 2 cities and the changes in house prices. Don't look at this peak, there is a decrease. Actually, there was an increase both in the changes in population and house prices after, the year 2005. And what I did was to compare the changes in population and house prices with the non-high-speed rail corridor to make a comparison. And Napoli-Bari is not a high-speed rail corridor. I mean, the high-speed rail link will be built in the coming years. It is just something in the pipeline. There is the feasibility study, but not the high-speed rail section yet. So you see, I'm sorry, you see this white one is the behavior of the Napoli-Bari corridor. And you see that there was no change in population and house prices after, this, with respect to the one for the Napoli-Roma changes in population and house prices. Of course, I was not happy with this analysis, so I started a quantitative analysis. The changes in population and house prices, which are the dependent variables, were compared to, were analyzed with some economic indicators, unemployment rate, GDP, transport indicators, which are the high-speed rail variables, So the travel time, travel costs on high-speed rail, the frequency and the comfort. So I wanted to check what were the factors having an influence on the changes in population and house prices on the corridor. This was a preliminary analysis, and I wanted to see whether actually the high-speed rail variables had an impact on these variables, okay? So I calibrated the model, and the results for the Rona high-speed rail corridor were that all the high-speed rail variables had an impact on the changes in population and house prices. The same for, these are the results for the house prices, For me, a variable is significant when the TD student is greater than 1.96, of course. I don't know whether you are confident with this analysis. So you see that all the variables connected with high speed had an impact. So it seems that between Napoli and Roma, probably high speed will have an impact on the formation of this. The other corridor was the Mito one, Milano-Torino. On this case, it it seems that the two cities behave separately, and a megalopolis doesn't exist, even if it is connected with, high-speed rail. The reduction in travel time was from 1 hour 40 minutes to 49 minutes between Milano and Torino is nothing. But Milano and Torino have a different economy. They are self-contained. I mean, Torino can live without Milano and vice versa. There are many, many factories, industries in Torino. I mean, people don't go to Torino to Milano every day. They don't commute. I mean, they are happy in Torino and Milano, you can imagine. So I wanted to analyze this corridor as well. It seems, that doing the same analysis, qualitative analysis for the Mito corridor, comparing it with the GEMI corridor. GEMI is the Genoa-Milano corridor, which is not linked with the high-speed rail corridor section. I found that more or less the behavior for the population is the same, For the house prices, there is a peak in 2013 for the Mito corridor, but I mean, this is something that I didn't give too much, care, didn't take care about that. I did the regression analysis also for this. For the house prices, actually seems that, the travel time, travel cost, the frequency of high-speed rail had an impact, but I mean, it is something that is, it's still a work in progress. Definitely, what I wanted to say is that, again, for Italy, I'm still looking for way and variables in order to quantify this phenomenon. This phenomenon should be applied to other corridors in Spain, probably between Madrid and Seville, I don't know, Madrid-Toledo, I don't know, no, probably not, there is not a megalopolis in Spain.
Madrid-Seville, I think it's a long trip.
It's a long trip. Probably
You can check it out with Madrid.
Madrid-Ciudad Real. Madrid-Ciudad Real.
And I think so also Madrid-Valencia.
Madrid-Valencia. This is something that we can develop, probably, we can work on. But this is something that, another thing that came to my mind, if this megalopolis exists, probably Roma-Napoli exists, I must say, I started thinking, who will be the mayor of this megacity? It won't be, the one of Napoli or the one in Rome. This brings institutional changes, also from, not only from a transportation point of view. Who will be the mayor of this new megacity? Can you follow me? The mayor won't be the one in Napoli or the one in Roma. It should be another one, the one that supports and supervises this megacity. But this is something really in the future that we need to think about. So let's go to one topic that probably is your topic, that is tourism. High-speed rail and tourism. This is something that I'm developing a lot. Okay, the idea, it's clear that transport and tourism are strictly linked to each other. Tourists, in order to reach the different destinations, need a very good transport system. And it came to my mind to work on high-speed rail systems and tourism, because I read on the Shenzhen Daily, which is an online newspaper, Chinese online newspaper. Listen to what I'm reporting now. Passengers with high-speed train tickets from Shenzhen or Gunzhou to Wuhan, sorry for my Chinese pronunciation, can enjoy discounts of 30-40% when visiting major tourism attraction in central China's Hubei province in April. A promotion of Hubei tourism authorities said Wednesday. This was March 2012. So, can you follow me? Yeah. So, this is a way of promoting high-speed rail. So this, let me think that if a destination is well promoted, is famous, the high-speed rail service should be promoted by Renfe, should be promoted by Trenitalia, with special offers, for example, for families traveling together. Again, if the service is well promoted, the destination on the other side should be promoted by the local administrations. So I started investigating for 4 different cities. This was very nice, because with the help of the group of transit in Madrid, José Manuel Vassallo in particular, so the help of colleagues in France. I was visiting professor at the University of Paris-Est, the group of le laboratoire de ville, mobilité, transport. in the University of Paris.
The French sounds much better than the Chinese. Yeah?
Well, I do speak French, and you know why. What we did, and then in Napoli and Roma, you see Colosseo. This is my town. I live very close to the sea. Well, you live very close to the sea. You know, I know what it means to live very close to the sea. So what we did was to employ surveys. Okay, the same survey in Napoli, Roma, Parigi, Paris, Madrid, and we choose different key sites where people go, tourists go. For example, in Madrid, Palazzo Real, no? Plaza Mayor, Puerta del Sol, in Madrid, for example, and we did the same in Rome, the same in Paris, you know, and the same in Napoli. We prepared the same questionnaires. Well, I prepared the same questionnaires, and we adapted to the different situations. And what happened? What I wanted to analyze, the main results of this service were that, you know, for people, tourists, we are talking about tourists now, special passengers, special users, people you know, traveling for tourist purpose. It came out from our analysis that, you know, tourists going to Paris and going to Madrid, they went to Paris and they went to Paris and, let's choose Paris and Napoli first. People going to Paris and tourists going to Paris and people going to Napoli, the high-speed rail was fundamental. I mean, it came out that the high-speed rail had an impact in their choices because le TGV in France is considered a real transport alternative for the French. You know, it was not like that for Madrid, not like that for Roma, because the tourists choose Madrid and Roma independently, but they chose high-speed rail for you know, visiting cities close to Madrid and close to Roma. Indeed, in Napoli, people arrive first in Rome and then they reach Naples by high-speed rail. It's normal because it's less than 1 hour.
Do you find any differences between the domestic and international tourists?
Sì. We did the separation, of course. Sì. Of course, for the case study of for the case study of Italy, I was not happy with my analysis and I went deeper. I developed more sophisticated models. I don't want to bother you with the specification that I use. What we did was to collect information for 77 Italian cities, information concerning number of tourists, number of overnights. You know, we get this information from the census. Istat is the Italian census. And then we develop simple Poisson regression models. Then we use a more sophisticated, we dealt with panel data regression models. Then we specify generalized estimating equations. But I wanted to show you the results, okay? The dependent and independent variables. I specified 3 different models. One for the tourists, one for the overnights, and one for the number of passengers traveling by plane, okay? So these are the independent variables that are a variable taking value 1 if the high-speed rail is available in that municipality. Do you follow me? For the 77 cities, can you follow me? Yes? Then high-speed dest is the number of high-speed destinations accessible from high-speed rail. Then POP is the number of inhabitants. Then low cost is a number of operating bases of low-cost airlines. The hub is a binary variable taking value 1 if the airport is a hub of a network carrier, 0 otherwise, if the city is a hub or not. Then the GDP of the city, the unemployment rate, and the number of museums, which is an attraction variables given by the census in Italy. So I specify 3 different models, I calibrate them, and for the airport traffic, it came out, you know that a variable is significant if the t statistic in brackets is greater than 1.96. So for the number of passengers traveling by plane, it happened that the low-cost variable is significant and of the expected sign, so has an impact on the number of passengers traveling by plane. The GDP is important. You know, it's interesting also if it is the city is an hub, of course. definitely. The attractive variable is not so important. Look, it is 1.96. The significance is almost at the limit. For the Italian tourist, you see the variables have an impact. Is the low-cost variable, the presence of the high-speed rail, the number of museums. Of course, it is an attraction. The same for the number of overnights. You see that the presence of a high-speed rail, the population, the GDP, and the number of museums. This is a topic that I do love because it's a mixture of land use experts, transportation engineers, economists, and this is the idea that a terminal, a high-speed rail station, is no more considered as just as a node in a network, but as a beautiful place where to stay, to shop, pieces of artwork. You know, look at the stations of Calatrava. I know that you love Calatrava. I do love Calatrava. I think he's one of the best architects. Well, he's an engineer as well. He has 2 degrees in architecture and engineering. Look at these stations, beautiful stations. Look at these ones. Norman Foster is the English architect. He's an archistar. We call stars of the contemporary architecture. Calatrava, Norman Foster. Zaha Hadid, she died, some years ago. But she made she did the design of the new high-speed rail station in Afragola in Napoli. That is a work in progress because the office of Zaha Hadid still exists. Her colleagues are still working for her. So this is going to be the one in Afragola in Napoli. It is a kind of a bridge, And just to tell this is that the idea of the terminals is changing. The concept of terminal is changing. No more just as nodes in a network, but beautiful places designed by famous architects. Beautiful places where to stay, spend some time, shop, but also work. Look at what I'm saying. Stations, terminals, let's say terminals in general, are becoming more and more places where to work. Indeed, high-speed rail station can foster the development and the inauguration of temporary offices. What are temporary offices? Are offices that can be rented for short periods of time. 1 hour, 2 hours, 1 week, 3 weeks, a month, 6 months. Temporary offices are for whom? Temporary offices are fully equipped offices, smart offices, Wi-Fi, secretary, video conferences room, where, and for whom are these offices? For mobile workers. Mobile workers are workers who do not own, an office, who do not own head offices, and they are pushed to travel for having their meetings. And where do they have their meetings? In terminals. High-speed rail stations, airports, shopping malls, retail centers, service stations on motorways. Regius is the world leader providing temporary offices all around the world. If you go to the Regius office, Regius website, it's amazing. He provides offices everywhere in the world. It's amazing. And everywhere in the world, in Spain as well. I know that there are many Regius offices in Spain, in Madrid definitely, and in Italy as well. Regius offices in some important towns, this is obvious, Milan, Roma, Torino, and Napoli, but Napoli is special. So is it clear that Regius place its offices in strategic places, terminals normally? And in Napoli, it's amazing because Regius has decided to place its temporary office inside the high-speed rail station in Garibaldi, in Napoli. So, on the 6th floor of the building of the high-speed rail station in Napoli, Regius has placed these beautiful and smart temporary offices. Okay? Inside the high-speed rail station, this is the building. On the 6th floor, there are these, smart offices. So what I did was, I wanted to catch the clients of Regius and to understand who were these clients, where they came from, why they are in Naples, for how long are they going to stay. So it came out for the case study of Napoli that 30% of the clients that rented the offices were decided to choose, these offices for having their meetings because they were inside the high-speed stations. People come from other parts of Italy, came by high-speed rail, have the meeting, come back home, because these are strategic places. But it came out for the case study of Naples that the clients, this was a surprise, were workers with low monthly income, because you should know there were local workers, because of freelance in Italy are very poor people, especially in the south of Italy because of the crisis. The clients don't pay. And so it was amazing, but people don't have a second office apart from the house. So they rented these offices for having the meetings, High-speed rail and house prices. I work with John Preston in the Transportation Research Group in Southampton. Well, I spent 1 year in Oxford, and then John moved to Southampton. With John and other colleagues, Peter Rietveld was involved also in this, in what I'm going to show you today. With John and Peter Rietveld, we work a lot on high-speed rail stations and house prices. I will show you briefly what we did. So we talk about Italy, high-speed rail in Italy, in Spain. You can see the different results of my research. So in UK, we cannot talk about a proper high-speed rail network. The first section was inaugurated in 2003, and it connects Ipswich with the south of UK. This is called Kent, the south of England. And the link goes through the Channel Tunnel, linking, London with Paris and Brussels. You know that the high-speed rail goes under the water, and it goes to Paris and Brussels. So the first section was inaugurated in 2003, while the second section was inaugurated in 2007, and it connects Ipswich with London, with 2 stations in London: St Pancras high-speed rail station and Stratford high-speed rail station. St Pancras was inaugurated in 2007, while Stratford was inaugurated in 2009. Okay, the first London St Pancras is amazing. It was completely renewed. The inside of London St Pancras is absolutely beautiful. The new and the old binds together, and it is in a very important borough of London, very close to King's Cross metro station, And the inside was renewed, and the outside was completely renewed. Absolutely amazing. I don't know whether you have been there recently. This is London St Pancras, and this is an high-speed rail station, of course, and the other one is Stratford. Stratford is an experience. Well, I went there. Stratford, the high-speed rail station in Stratford was inaugurated for the Olympic Games. It was inaugurated in 2009, and the Olympic Games were in 2012. And this borough, there was nothing there. They built houses, new houses, shopping malls, the architecture. I mean, we can talk about the architecture. Well, in general, I don't like it. But I was amazed by what they did for this borough, and what the high-speed rail station, the impact of the high-speed rail station on these houses was really significant. So what I did, I wanted to analyze whether the inauguration of the 2 high-speed rail stations in London had an impact on the property prices, on house prices. So what I did was to define, this is the methodology. I know I don't want to bother you so much, but I wanted to show you the results. But the methodology was to consider bands of increasing distance from the center that is represented by the terminal. Bands of increasing distance from the central station, bands of 250 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters, 300 and 500 meters of increasing distance. And I wanted to analyze the property values inside these bands of the increasing distance from the station. Can you follow me? Yes? So, hedonic pricing models, these are the methodology that we know. Regression models with different specifications. The dependent variable is represented by house prices, of course. no? The property prices, and then the independent variables are the variables connected with the year in which the property was sold. So if the property was sold in that year, is a dummy variable equal to 1, 0 otherwise. Then the structural variables, you know how the English one are, the flats, they have different types of buildings, flats, detached, semi-detached, terrace, you know the topologies in England. Then zonal attributes, accessibility attributes, the accessibility to the metro station, the distance to the motorway, but I'm very interested to these ones. The image variables. These are dummy variables equal to 1 or 0, equal to 1, whether the property is in band 1, you know what is a band 1 now, and there is the high-speed rail, so yes, high-speed rail. Band 2, if there is not, the band 2, the high-speed rail is not there. And band 3, you know what it is of increasing distance, so 250, 300, 500, and so on. So what came out from my analysis, I'm just going to go very quick on this. We consider different model specification, semi-log, box-cox left-hand side, box-cox both-hand side specifications. And it came out that the log model for the Stratford International High-Speed Station provided the best results in terms of performance. I wanted just to show you that the year variables, the betas increase till, the year 2008, yes, and then it fell down the value because of the economic crisis, And I wanted to show you the results for the band images. Look, they are all positive end of the expected sign, meaning that the high-speed rail station actually had an impact on the house prices, but the impact decreased with the increasing distance from the station. The value decreases because the distance increases, but there is an image effect. For the St. Pancras, the best performance was given by the box-cox both-hand side model. In this case, I wanted to show you that just the band 1 the beta of band 1 provided, had an impact. The other ones, with increasing distance, we had no impact because the variables were negative. So for this case of St. Pancras, being, inside band 1 means that they had an impact on house prices. The high-speed rail station had an impact. The last but not the least, I must say, topic is high-speed rail station and social exclusion. This is a topic that is a work in progress. I'm trying to develop this. I'm very happy if there is anybody who wants to cooperate with me. This question of social exclusion or social inequalities is very important today. We read many articles on this topic, and you know that we are not living a good period of our history, unfortunately. So, what is meant by social exclusion? I've been working a lot on the state of the art of this. I promise this is the last thing I'm going to tell you. What is a social exclusion? I like the definition of Silver. I must confess there are many ones, but I like the one of Silver. Social exclusion is a process of progressive social rupture, which detach means separates, groups and individuals from social relations and institutions, and prevent them from full participation in normatively prescribed activities of the society in which they live. The concept of social exclusion, this is a general concept, is not related to transport, not yet. I'm just giving you the definition of social exclusion that I like most. And then the concept of social exclusion is very different from the concept of poverty. Poverty is another concept, is another idea. And the concept of poverty is deprivation of basic human needs. I don't have food. I cannot drink. I cannot go to the hospital, okay? Because I cannot look after myself. I don't have the money, okay? The concept of social exclusion related to transport is something that in the literature is treated. Karen Lucas, she works in Leeds. She's an associate professor in Leeds. She has published a lot on social exclusion in transport in general, mainly with car, related to car. And normally, what I wanted to say to you is that the concept of social exclusion related to transport is, in general, in the international literature, is related to the low accessibility to an infrastructure. I cannot have access to that infrastructure, then, therefore, I feel socially excluded. This is the general idea in the international literature. So it's connected to the low accessibility to a given infrastructure, to a given service, okay? Bus line, for example. So what I did was to take this literature and I started investigating the connection between social exclusion and rail, high-speed rail in general. But look what I did. There is a paper by Church and his colleagues published in the year 2000, published in Transport Policy, in the Journal Transport Policy, and the Church and his colleagues were very good because they provided 7 principles of social exclusion in general applied to transport, not to rail, in general, okay? And I wanted to, the 7 principles of social exclusion are listed here, but what I did was to adapt the 7 principles of Church and his colleagues applied to transport, but I adapted to rail and high-speed rail. I wanted to highlight 3 of them, 3 principles of social exclusion: the geographical exclusion, the economic exclusion, and the time-based exclusion. Listen to what I'm saying. For me, users feel geographically excluded from high-speed rail because they don't have access, because of the low accessibility to that service. For example, in Italy, you know, the high-speed rail serves only the big metropolitan cities. How about the rest of the world? How about the rest of the Italians? Not everybody lives, you know, in Roma city center, Napoli city center, because where do they, you know, locate high-speed rail stations? In city centers normally. How about the rest of the people? So people feel geographically excluded from high-speed rail because they have low accessibility to that station. People feel economically excluded from high-speed rail because they cannot afford. High-speed rail is still expensive. In Italy, it is still expensive. In UK, it's amazingly expensive, the high-speed rail. Because for them, rail, the conventional rail, is the real alternative transport mode, but not high-speed rail. You know, it's still expensive. And then I choose also time-based factor of exclusion, which is if the departure arrival times don't match those desired by the users. So what I did, again, with the help of my colleagues John Preston in Southampton, and then again José Manuel Vassallo in Madrid, and me in Italy. These are the shapes of the network, the high-speed rail network in Italy. You know, you see that it's not a capillary system. Capillary means that it doesn't go capillare, non so come voi dite in spagnolo. Capillare, comprende? Sì? Capillarità. In Italy, it is not a capillary system. It serves just, you know, the big important cities. In Spain, it has a different shape. And in UK, you know, I cannot say that they have a proper high-speed rail system. You know, it connects just London to the south of Kent. So, with the help of my colleagues, John Preston in Southampton, José Manuel Vassallo in Madrid, and me in Italy, we employ the same survey. Same survey, we submit the questionnaire. Well, we wanted to know other things as well, but also what were the behavior of users with respect to the 7 principles of social exclusion. It came out from our analysis that, let's see, well, you are probably interested in Spain, but Spain has a much more neutral behavior because they have a proper high-speed rail, well, you have a proper high-speed rail network, but it was not a surprise if 49% of the sample in UK feel economically excluded from high-speed rail because it's extremely expensive. And in Italy, you see that people feel geographically excluded, 49% of the sample, which is a lot. Because, I mean, not everybody lives in the city center, I mean, and in the center of Napoli, the center of Rome, and I must confess that even the bus lines, the other trains are not very good, very well connected, you know, so people feel definitely excluded. These are some of my publications on high-speed rail, just the ones selected on high-speed rail and the impacts. I wanted to end this seminar with the last thing. I do belong to a group, an association, which is promoted by the UEC's l'Union Internationale des Chemins de Fer, which is, probably you know, the International Union of Railways, which is a place in Paris. The idea is to promote rail transport at the world level. L'Union Internationale des Chemins de Fer wants to promote this alliance between themselves and universities at the international level, to promote conferences, to promote projects. And I was there. We met in London in September 2017 at Imperial College. The Imperial College is in a beautiful place, borough of London, which is South Kensington. And we went, this is the first rocket steam locomotive by Stevenson, which is a place very close at the Science Museum, which is absolutely close to the Imperial College in South Kensington. And we were there this is the initial members. Probably the network will be enlarged, I don't know, but definitely it will be, to promote rail and projects on this from September 2017 onward. I've finished.